and thank you for watching this Eco Arizona video special. My name's Nikisa, and today we will be speaking with Brian Bunn of Healthy House Doctors based in Ahwatukee. And Brian, he's going to be telling us a little bit more about his background, but we're doing this interview because we're observing something called Detoxtober. We want to share with you ideas about ways to detox your life. And, you know, a lot of times we think about environmental toxins as being something that's just outdoors, you know, the pollution, the smog from all the vehicles and maybe industrial activity. But in fact, our homes can also be very toxic, our living space, and a lot of it is stuff that we're bringing into our own lives. So Brian is going to tell us more about that because he's an expert in this area. And before we get started, do you want to introduce yourself and some of your credentials?
Sure. I've got a lot of different credentials, but I've got education from the IU School of Medicine in environmental health science and epidemiology. I have a lot of bachelor's degrees in history and philosophy and minors in psychology and anthropology. So really just trying to understand, you know, how culture works, how we think, things of that nature. And I'm in naturopathic medical school right now at Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. Some of my other credentials: I'm a registered environmental health specialist and sanitarian. I'm a certified professional in food safety, and probably more importantly relating to this is my training in building biology.
Right.
Electromagnetic radiation specialist, as well as the building biology environmental consultants and things like that. So. And
can you give us like a brief primer on what building biology is and what it means to live in a healthy house? Because normally we think of people as they need to be healthy, but in order for that to happen, it sounds like our home environment needs to also support us.
Not just our home environment, but our entire ecology that we live in. So our yard, our neighborhood, our communities, our cities, our villages and towns, places like that. But building biology, well, first of all, building biology is a concept that was created in Germany, I believe in the 1950s, that came about as a result of the construction that the United States did in Germany after World War II, where the Brits and the British and the United States and the Allies really destroyed a huge part of Nazi Germany to effect that change. So they came in and rebuilt it, but they rebuilt it using these industrial practices that didn't have like the building physics or building science behind it. And so they had violated all of the natural laws that people building for hundreds and thousands of years had observed. And so what happened is people who were living in the new buildings were starting to get sick very quickly. And so there was Germany, being a highly educated country with a lot of very engineering-minded people, started noticing this, and their doctors started noticing this. And so they started noticing that it was the people in the new buildings. And so they said, hey, what's going on? What's with these new buildings? And so they started to record and observe those problems and started addressing those problems. Where it came to the United States is that one of the leaders in building biology came to the United States and brought building biology here and started teaching it and translating it from the German to the English. And I think that happened in the 70s. And some of my teachers were the people who studied with him, I think, in the 70s through the 90s and built this program up. And so I think their name is now, they just changed the name recently, but they're the Building Biology Institute. And the Building Biology Institute certifies people in building biology. And so the building biology is just trying to get the biology and understand the science of building so that you can use more natural materials, but healthy natural materials. Because sometimes this word healthy or people think naturally, they think something's good for the environment, and it's not really good for the environment, or it's not good for people. They think it's eco-friendly, but is it healthy? So they certified people as a building biology advocate. I think as a building biology environmental consultant. They have electromagnetic radiation specialists that do this work.
And that's where you got your certification.
That's where I got mine. They also certify architects and builders.
Wow.
So
it sounds like a lot of the more modern industrial practices are not taking into account the impact that some of these synthetic materials are having on our bodies. So there's definitely a chemical component. And kind of what I was thinking we can focus on as well would be the some of the newer ways that we're harming ourselves through electromagnetic radiation. Obviously, we've always had electricity for a long time in the home, but now even a lot of smart technology using wireless communication, which unfortunately the government in the United States and many governments around the world don't really recognize as being harmful, when there's a lot of, it's been established essentially by the independent science community that these types of radiation can be very harmful to our cells, and maybe some of the issues that we're experiencing, like problems with sleep and other aspects that you can go into, maybe we're not realizing that some of it is actually due to these technologies that haven't been vetted properly. So I was going to ask you, I mean, what are some of these ways that our homes, the way that they're built today, and some of these products that we're bringing in, how could they be harming us?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we could actually do a week-long conference on this and still not get to it all.
Yeah.
Because that's how many ways we're putting things in our society. And I say we, it's not we the little people so much often, it's we industry, we military, we government, but we also, at the part where we have a role to play in this, is that we have choice. And we drive demand. So when we want something cheaper and more economic and more convenient, when we prioritize those things over our health and our family's health and whatnot, we don't realize that those costs just aren't being factored in. We're only factoring in the costs of the convenience and the economy and whatnot. So when we actually factor in the destruction to the environment, or the destruction to our communities and to our waterways, to our air pollution, or what have you, when we factor those things in, they come in in the from a public health standpoint, which is some of my training is. It comes in as the ways in which, or all the means in which we funnel money into the medical system, because so much of this stuff is easily prevented, or I wouldn't say easily prevented.
A lot of our chronic illness, probably.
A lot of our chronic illness. We could reduce probably medical spending, I'm guessing, if I had to guess, and I'm guessing, but probably anywhere from 30 to 80% just by doing a lot of this stuff in homes, building homes right.
So we're talking about air quality from some of these industrial materials, furnishings, flooring, adhesives, things like that.
Yeah.
But also the radiation aspect coming not just from the circuits and the electricity in the walls, but also from Wi-Fi, our cordless phones, baby monitors, smart meters.
Anything that's wireless. Anything that's wireless, just start off the bat, is going to be a problem. And you mentioned sleep. Sorry, were you going to?
Well, I was going to say, and even in microwave ovens, not wireless, but it gives off tons of microwave radiation, the same type used in Wi-Fi, right?
That's right. Wi-Fi, if I use my cell phone, it's basically a very small microwave oven. It's powered much lower, but when you sit and calculate how long someone spends on these devices or in these environments, these exposures, I've seen one scientist calculate it in one of the research things, and he suggested, this is an Indian scientist about 5 or 7 years ago, he suggested that our total accumulated radiation throughout a day is like sitting in a microwave for 19 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So even though it's low powered, right, and some people...
We're on slow cook.
We're on slow cook.